Welcome to the Fishing for a Reason podcast. It's great to have you guys back here on this amazing May day. We are about halfway through the Lingcod season now, and it has been such a fun freaking season. And for those of you that hopped on the shrimp opener out in the San Juan Islands, it was freaking lights out. I don't know about you guys, but again, for us, if Scott and I go out, we really just need one of the coffin pots. We limit out on just one every time. So it has been so fun to cook up these shrimp and cook them a variety of different ways. We actually did a little experiment since inside of our community and inside of our membership, the Anglers Unlimited Gold membership, we actually release different recipes every single month. Some of the recipes are brought to us by our members. Some of the recipes are actually stuff that we experiment with at home. So we did shrimp 5 ways last night. It was super fun. And I'm really excited to share kind of the results of our little taste test experiment. But with that, we're going to talk about Lingcod this week because it's in full swing. It's Memorial Day weekend. It's going to be a freaking blast out there to go out there and target some lingcod before the season ends. So let's dive into a little bit of lingcod conversation. So we're going to start with the blue flesh mystery. Now, those of you may have heard a little bit about this if you listened to our episode 16. If you want a little bit more deep dive on fishing tactics, like straight up tactics, go to episode 16, I think go to episode 16 and check that out. But this is actually a little bit more of a biology focus. So you can see how understanding the actual fish is going to make you a better fisherman. And it's fun to know these facts. You're out on the water, you catch this thing that looks like a dinosaur. And when it comes up, if somebody's with you that's never seen one before, they're going to freak out. They might be afraid to touch it, but they're actually a really interesting and cool fish. So why not load yourself up with some interesting facts that you can share with your friends and family? So the blue flesh mystery. And if you're not sure what I'm talking about, when you fish for lingcod, about 20% of these guys will come up with a kind of a tealish green hue to their actual color. So they have those brown spots, those brown highlights all over their body. But the green lingcod or blue lingcod, whatever you prefer, it's like in the whitish part of the fish. You'll just see this little tealish hue. And it freaks people out if they've never seen it. They're like, oh, something's wrong with my fish, which is absolutely not true. It's called biliverdin. I have to figure out how to pronounce that every single time. But it's caused by biliverdin, which is a pigment that builds up in the muscle tissue of the fish. Scientists do think that this may be related to diet, genetics, or potentially liver function. There's not an actual concrete reason why this happens, but the meat is totally safe. And when you actually fillet the fish, it will have that bluish green tint to it. When you cook it, it's going to turn white just like the rest of them. Tastes totally the same. We've done a side-by-side taste test thinking, is one different than the other? No, they're totally the same. But I do want to show you what that looks like. So I'm going to share my screen, and you can see this has that blue kind of YouTube video as well. That'll be linked in the show notes if you want to see what this looks like. But yeah, totally normal, really cool. Only 20% of these guys have it. Let me show you a picture of a regular lingcod. So you can see this guy does not have that bluish hue, and this guy does. So it's super fun when you get one. Don't be freaked out by it, and tell your family a story about what that actually means. It's biliverdin is the reason that this is actually on these fish. So fun fact number 2 is all about the male lingcod. They are the nest defenders of the deep. Every single winter, the males actually make their move inshore during the spawning season. So around like December, they're going to stake out shallower rocky reefs and crevices, waiting for females to show up and lay their eggs. So that's when their real work actually starts, is the females will come to those shallow areas, they'll lay their eggs, and the males are going to camp out in that area from 6 to 11 weeks, nonstop nest guarding. And the really interesting fact about this is the males are all in, they're fighting off predators, they're going without food, just guarding this nest. That is their job. And they will not relieve their post until those eggs hatch, which is really interesting, and why we are not fishing for these guys in the wintertime. Because if we were to grind up one of those male lingcod while we're just jigging, unfortunately, that nest is going to get eaten really fast, and it's going to hurt the population overall. So that's why we have a very specific time that we fish for these guys, and it's not around that breeding season. Fact number 3 is the lingcod life cycle. So these eggs are laid in big, sticky masses on the rocks in the winter, like we just talked about. And like we said, the males guard them with their life because their life depends on it. Their entire species and their genetics depends on this. After 6 to 11 weeks, those eggs are going to hatch and tiny larvae are going to move out and actually just drift in the current. So they'll go way shallower to near shore in the current. Once they get to be about 2 to 3 inches long, those juveniles are going to be heavy enough to settle into the shallow eelgrass, kelp beds, or even two worm colonies. These are safe zones where they can hide from predators and they're more protected. They're going to stay in that area for that next year or two. They grow really fast. And as they age, 1 to 2 years old, that's when they start shifting deeper, those juvenile fish, eventually joining the adults on the rockier reefs from 50 to 100 feet deep. So by 3 to 5 years old, you're going to see those big females start to mature and be able to produce eggs. And those ladies are going to go much deeper, which is why we don't fish below 120 feet. We want to protect those girls because they're the ones that are repopulating the areas. So 3 to 5 years old are when the females actually mature. And fun fact, these guys live to be about 20. So if you find a big, huge, girthy female way above that slot limit, she's probably an older breeder. And you want to make sure to get her safely back into the water as fast as possible so we can continue to have these guys populate the reefs that we fish. So homebodies of the reef is fact number 4. What's really interesting is depending on where you find lingcod, you're going to learn that they have different migration patterns or behaviors. And in this case, these guys are homebodies here in Washington state. So they're similar to like a bear in its den. Once they settle on a really good reef, they're going to stay there for years, rarely moving more than 100 yards. So that's really interesting for us here. As an example, we fish, and I keep pointing that way because I've got the water right out my window. We fish these same spots every single year, right? They're really productive over and over. So knowing that these guys don't really migrate a whole lot, once you find a productive spot, just think about it. If they are in that spot and they're living in that spot, they're going to keep repopulating that spot every single December when eggs are laid. So you can keep returning season after season and still get lingcod from that same spot. It's also why we have a pretty short slot limit. And again, we don't fish below 120 feet. And I just encourage all anglers to respect that. Let's keep this fishery happy and healthy and alive. Unfortunately, it does happen where people are jig a little bit deeper, and I would highly recommend that you not do that so that we can preserve this fishery and have it be fun for people for years and years to come. Fun fact number 5, these guys are opportunistic and aggressive feeders, which really matters for those of you that are targeting these fish. They are not picky eaters. They're aggressive. They're what we call ambush predators. So if you think about it, you got the fish, and then if something swims by, they're going to grab it quick. They're going to dart out and grab it really hard. And you know that when one hits because you can feel that big tug. And I'll show you a quick video here of a lingcod actually hitting so you can see what it looks like on the rod. They are just hammering whatever they're after. Some examples of things that these guys eat: Pacific herring, sand lance, greenlings, juvenile rockfish. They'll eat squid. They'll eat octopus. They will also eat other lingcod. Nobody is off limits. If you're swimming and you're in their area and you can fit in their mouth, they will eat you. So that's one thing. So one thing you can do to actually improve your catch rate is if you do catch one of these guys, and we recommend this with any kind of fish that you're targeting, fillet them open and look inside the bellies. See what's inside those bellies, and it gives you an indication if you do go fish that same spot again, maybe you match the hatch. So pick a split tail jig or swim bait that's going to have a similar color to whatever they're eating, and they may actually strike more. One thing Scott and I do when we're fishing is we always have multiple colors on board. We actually don't fish bait very often, and it's strictly an efficiency thing. We can go out there and grind up lingcod in some of our favorite fishing spots pretty quickly. So for us, just going to catch bait and then rig bait and then fish bait just makes us less fast than just going out using some swim baits that we already have rigged up on some lead heads or split tails, and we have them all nice and set up and ready to go. And all we're doing is jigging. He will do one color, I'll do another color. If he gets hit more, like last time we went out, he was just outfishing me like 5-1. A lot of small ones. So we had to toss them back. But so I switched it and matched his color and finally got some strikes on my side. So that's one little tip. Fish two different colors. One of you is probably going to get more action if there's just two of you on the boat. If there's four of you on the boat, fish four different colors. And then see if you can start matching the hatch with whatever is actually getting more attention from the fish. So that's a fun thing to do. All right, let me quickly show you guys something really cool. So I showed you this picture of the green lingcod. And then you can see right here, this is a very common color that we use, the pink and then white. I'd say if we're going to go out and jig, those are the first two colors we're going to drop in the water. And this was over by Clarkson Barnes, which is a super fun place to fish out here in the San Juan Islands. Beautiful lingcod right there. And then this, I love this picture because it gives an example of the fact that lingcod, if it fits in my mouth, I will eat it. This is a full-size coho. So for those of you that are tuning in to the podcast, it's a picture of a lingcod on the fillet table. And when I caught this thing, and I was out in Nootka Sound actually, and I caught this thing, and it just looked pregnant. Like it literally had this huge bulge in the belly, and I could not wait to get it back to the dock and fillet it and see what the heck was in there. And it turns out it was a full-size freaking coho. So you can imagine, coho are not slow fish. It's pretty impressive that this guy just nailed a coho and down it went. I got a 2-for-1 special in that case. So they're very cool fish. I also want to show you guys a quick video of a strike, and I will describe it for you for those of you watching online here. We'll also splice in the video to our YouTube channel. So yeah, you can see Scott and I are just jigging. I think we're jigging in about 50 feet or so. And so we're actually jigging up. You can see how we're reeling a little bit as the bottom comes up. We're basically kissing the bottom with those lead heads. And so as soon as you feel it, you just pull the rod up. And I'm also, you can see, continuing to turn and watch the sonar there because I want to make sure I know what the bottom is doing. And if you watch Scott's rod, he's just jigging, doing his thing, whatever, reeling up a little bit. You're going to see what a hit looks like. And these are pretty beefy. There, boom. So it's just on. As he's dropping down, a lot of times these guys will strike as you go down. And so as soon as you pull back up, you're going to feel the tension on that rod. And so he's just reeling it in. And since we were so shallow, I reeled up really quickly, grabbed the net, went underneath the fish to grab it. And a couple tips here. So you can just grab the top of the lead head jig. This case, I just netted it very quickly. And we were like, it might be legal. So we did a quick little measurement. It looked on the small side, but if you're ever not sure, it doesn't hurt to throw the tape on the fish. So I recommend using like, what do you call it? The kind of measuring tape that you can use to measure like clothing. You'll do your shoulders, you'll do your bust and your hips. You can see it right there. I can't describe or explain what the word is, but grab one of those on Amazon for $3 and they're perfect for fish. And you can get multiple of them and they just hose off nicely. So you can see I measured it right here. It was a 22-inch lingcod and the slot limit is 26 to 36. So this guy's going to go right back in the water and they are very hardy fish. And it's nice. A lot of times when you do hook them, you're not going to hook them super deep. You're going to grab them in the cartilage on their lips. So it's easy to just quickly, you can see Scott just does a little jerk and in the fish goes and he'll swim right away. No problem. So there you go. And then we just get right back to fishing. So it's a lot of fun when these guys hit. And I highly recommend that you give yourself the opportunity to go out there and catch them. One other fun thing that we were talking about. So I had somebody actually mention that she caught her very first, I think it was her daughter caught her very first lingcod, and they were just like, whoa, this thing looks like a dinosaur. But one thing that grossed her daughter out about the lingcod, which I thought was something that we should talk about on the podcast today. Do lingcod have worms in their meat? Yes, they do, as do halibut, as do salmon. It's very common for fish to have worms in their meat. Parasites are just a fact of life. And what's really fascinating is if you think about the food that we eat inside of a grocery store, as an example, all of it that's farm raised, they're treated for parasites. So the reason that we are grossed out and freaked out by it is worms are gross and ugly looking, but also it's something that's been eliminated from a marketing standpoint in the food in our diet. So we don't see it because it's taken care of. It's not as appealing to a buyer. So when you catch a wild animal, you're going to find worms inside of the meat. And it's part of the ecosystem. Parasites are just part of the ecosystem in a variety of different species. So lingcods do have worms in their meat. The older the fish, often the worms they will be. So the bigger ones are going to have more worms. Same with halibut. That's one reason a lot of guys do not want to keep the big ones. Besides the fact that they're the big breeders, they also have the wormier meat. So these worms are typically what you would call roundworms. They're small, white, or clear, and they're roundworms that live in the muscle tissue or the body cavity of marine fish. They can be up to 2 centimeters long, and they're usually coiled or slightly curved when you found them. So these worms actually have a pretty complex life cycle involving seals, sea lions, whales, where they find their first hosts, and then fish like lingcod serve as immediate hosts when the larvae live in the flesh of the fish. So, yeah, we're going to freak you out a little bit, but are these worms harmful? No, not absolutely not. They are not harmful, but yes, you can have a parasite if you do eat a live one. It's super rare. FDA guidelines say in order for you to avoid these worms affecting you, you just need to cook the fish to 145 degrees internal temperature or freeze it for 7 days. So if you're going to make like ceviche, I would be looking very closely at the lingcod meat because you can absolutely make ceviche with lingcod. It's delicious. But yeah, just look closely at the meat and you can pick them out. Just pick out the worms if you see any in there. Use your tweezers like you would do to debone and you'll be just fine. But it's not going to hurt you if you eat one, to be honest. They're not uncommon because these guys are predatory fish and eat small fish, squid, and crustacean. Many of these are hosts of these worms. So larger and older lingcod will typically have the more parasites than the younger ones. So you actually probably won't see the worms until you fillet the fish. And again, just remove them with tweezers. It's super normal in wild fish. It's actually a good sign for the ecosystem. There was a study done in 2019 with the University of Washington that correlated parasite level. Like the higher the parasitic level, the healthier the ecosystem in the water. They were looking at water temperatures, and the increase in water temperatures was decreasing the parasite content of whatever they sampled and was an indication of the environment actually being in a bad state. So parasites are not a bad thing. They're just literally a fact of life. So finding worms in your lingcod is not a sign of poor quality fish. It's actually a reality of eating wild caught seafood. And again, there's a lot of commercial fishermen and there's a process to eliminate the appearance of worms in the flesh of the meat before it comes to your grocery store. So it's super common. Don't be freaked out by the worms. Be interested and excited that it's a great sign for our ecosystem. And with that, we're going to sign off today. I hope you guys had a fantastic Memorial weekend. For our veterans, thank you for your service. And we are going to see you guys same time, same place next week on Tuesday with the next episode of the Fishing for a Reason podcast. If you have anything that you want us to talk about or research, we love content ideas. You can follow us at anglersunlimited.co on Instagram. Send us a direct DM. We would love to hear from you. So with that, we will catch you next time and have a beautiful day, everybody.